Hi, I'm Dana, and I've posted a fairly substantial amount of content about the abuse that I face with my family at this point. And one of the major comments that I get that isn't just people like relating and telling me their stories and things is people being like, oh, well, it sounds like your mum was neurodivergent. And some of them are definitely coming from a place of trying to help me out and being like, this is part of the reason, like, this is something to consider. And quite a lot of them seem to think that I'm like the most ableist asshole in the world for accusing someone who may or may not have been autistic for abusing me. And it's a topic that I've seen happening more and more on like online in general, in other places as well, and to other people. And I want to go into it because in some ways I do absolutely agree, and in other ways I think it's very much oversimplifying it. So I can ramble and word vomit all of my crap about it and then see what other people think and form my own opinion from there. I'm gonna start with the fact that like I do understand where it comes from, because it wasn't something that I'd considered all that much before I started talking about it online and having people suggest it. And once I saw those comments, I was like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that tracks that my mum was probably neurodivergent. It was a thought I'd had about my dad a lot. Like, my dad had a lot of very, very similar traits to me, and I definitely think that my dad was autistic. I sort of flip-flop a bit more on what I think was necessarily going on with my mum, and the fact of it is, I'm never gonna know. Like, the woman's dead and I wasn't talking to her anyway. I'm never going to know what was actually going on. But looking back and like reflecting on things with the view of her being an undiagnosed neurodivergent person of some sort, most likely autistic, definitely changed the way that I view some things about her, because there's a whole lot of things that she would pick apart about my personality and make me feel really, really terrible about. And I think there's a very, very high chance that she was doing that due to the fact that they were the traits that she'd been told off for. They were the traits that she'd been taught to hide and taught were bad things to have about you. You know, like working under the assumption that she was also autistic or in other way neurodivergent in a diagnosable sense. I'm going to be working under the assumption that she was like autistic or ADHD. They're what I think was probably going on, if anything was. I've had so many people throw out narcissistic personality disorder. I've made an entire video on how much that's thrown about for like anyone that's a bit of an asshole. I don't think my mum like had narcissistic personality disorder. I think she was sometimes quite narcissistic. I don't think that was like a diagnosable trait. I think she was just selfish in some ways, you know? But when it comes to the very personal things that she would say to and about me, I think they come half and half from the trauma that she had faced herself and the fact that it was traits that she'd been taught to hide and taught were bad things and taught that people shouldn't be showing, so why is her kid doing it, you know? But that being said, I was also quite a therapist for my mum from like a fairly young age, so I'm also very, very aware of the trauma that she went through, and like, it's not my trauma to share, I'm not going to tell you about it. But there's definitely parts of it that are close enough to things that I've experienced that I very much think that I ended up in that situation due to my autism, due to being autistic, due to being that little bit naive and that little bit vulnerable and just not picking up on all the social cues. That's how I landed myself in that situation, you know? And I definitely see some similarities in the things that she told me about in extreme detail that I didn't need to know about my mother, to be quite honest with you. But all that being said, I don't really care if she was autistic or ADHD or neurodivergent or holistic or neurotypical or whatever else. I care that she was my mother and she neglected and abused me and didn't treat me nicely and didn't help me in the ways that she was supposed to, you know? Like, yeah, I'm sure there's 1,000 reasons that anybody abuses and neglects their kid. I don't really care that much about what the reasons are, you know? Like, I feel like I've figured out what the reasons are enough for myself to feel some level of like closure around it to a point. Not closure is definitely the wrong word. I talk about it online like once a week. But you know, like, for a long time I didn't even realise it was happening, and I feel much, much better being able to talk about it and feeling like my experience is going to help somebody out there. Like, I'm definitely in the point of like my healing journey or whatever you want to call it, that I feel like I have enough reasons without having to attempt to diagnose a dead person. And that's where we get into where I think it's almost ableist, because I've had this as well with like, I talk about the abusive relationship I was in, and he was a diagnosed autistic man. He'd been diagnosed in childhood, And I've had like really long comments about how I'm such a horrible person for talking about him like this and treating him like this, when he was the one that was abusing me. But he's autistic. He probably didn't even know. He probably didn't even realise. Well, he should have. He was an adult. Like, he was in the exact same situation I was in, like, life. Only he had his parents. He had a whole bunch more support than I did. He didn't need to be an asshole. I don't care if he was autistic. And the same thing goes for my mother. Like, I really do not care about what reason she had for abusing me. I care that I was abused and neglected for my entire childhood. Obviously, as an autistic person myself, I do believe we need accommodations. I can't socialise as well as other people. I am going to miss social cues. There will be times that I say things that are mistaken and make me seem like an asshole. And there's a balance of people need to accommodate me and I need to learn and do better and be a good person, you know? And I would hope that everyone's trying their best. But I don't think my mother was. Like, I don't know how well I put it across in videos because I don't want to say I'm very good, but I'm quite good at talking about like situations and the way my brain works and autism on that level. I'm not good about talking about my feelings. I don't like talking about my feelings. I was never taught how to talk about my feelings. I was taught that you push them down and ignore them. So I don't know how well I get across in videos that I do take a very empathetic approach to my mother. Like, as much as I talk about the fact she abused and neglected me, because she did, I loved her. I loved her so much, you know? I went and saw that woman every single day for like 4 years, and I didn't even enjoy seeing her. I didn't even enjoy being around her because she was horrible to me a lot of the time. And she was horrifically racist and homophobic and transphobic and just not a nice person to be around. And yet I still loved her so much and did everything that I could for years to please her and make her happy and to be the perfect daughter for her. And it made no fucking difference to her. She did not give a shit. Nothing was ever good enough. And it definitely feels like there's an implication of, I should have tried harder, I should have been nicer, I should have accommodated more, I should have done this, this and this and this and this and this and this. And like, no, she was my mother. She should have supported me. She should have accommodated me. She should have tried to be the best mother that she could be for me. And she didn't. And I think there's also like, obviously, a whole lot of complex nuances. I lost my words a bit there, but like there's just so much fucking shit behind families, you know? There is so much context to families that like I don't even entirely understand my own fucking family context. My oldest brother was diagnosed autistic and consistently accommodated to. I can't tell you how many times I had to turn off like Doctor Who or Lord of the Rings or whatever I was watching because he had had a meltdown and he needed to watch Star Trek now. If I had a meltdown, I was sent to my room and told to stop having a tantrum, you know? Like, that's the thing for me, is that my family was a lot more aware of autism than a lot of other families were. Like, my mother was working in homes for people with various stuff going on. I don't fully fucking remember. I don't have the right word on me right now. My dad worked with social services. They were very, very aware of like autism and mental health conditions and all sorts of things like that. And yet they would still see me having an absolute meltdown because my shoes didn't feel right and be like, stop having a tantrum because you don't like them. And it's like, I liked them. I chose them out in the shop. They don't feel right. And they'd, you know, like it was such obvious autism things that were just completely ignored. And I do think that a whole lot of that comes from the fact that my brothers are 8 and 9 years older than me and I wasn't fucking planned. And do I want to go into that? I wasn't planned, and I was told throughout my childhood that I was like so expensive and so difficult because they'd already given away all their baby stuff because they didn't want another baby, and suddenly there I was. And then suddenly when I was like 15, my mum started talking about how I was planned and they really wanted a girl and this and that. And it's like, you spent my entire childhood saying that you wish you'd never had a girl because the boys were so much easier to raise. You spent my entire childhood telling me that I was like essentially a mistake and I was so difficult to fucking deal with. And that just switched as a teenager. And it's things like that where I'm just like, I don't care if she's autistic, I don't care if she was ADHD, I don't give a fuck what she had going on. She was fucking mean to me and she was my mother. She was like the one person in the world that's supposed to be nice to me, you know? And she wasn't. And I think it's also like massively underestimating and sort of just making a whole lot of assumptions about autistic people when we don't even know if she was autistic, because I guarantee you that I wouldn't treat a child the way that she treated me. I would never ever speak to a child the way that she spoke to me, ever. Never mind my own one. You know, I'm also making decisions about not having kids because I don't think I could fucking parent well. And a good amount of it stems from the fact that I don't feel like I was ever parented in the first place. I don't feel like I know what being a parent looks like because I never fucking saw it from anyone. And I add that because it's the case of like, there's loads of people who are autistic parents who are really good parents. You know, like, she wasn't bad at it because she might have been autistic. She was bad at it because of who she was and the fact she was bad at it. Loads of people that are similar to her, lots of people that have the same neurotype, whatever that may have been, you know, they're good parents. And especially specifically assuming that she was autistic, there's loads of really fucking good autistic parents. And I will be the first to complain about the autism mummies because they're some of the most annoying people on the planet to me. But that's a very small subsection of a very large group of people that are generally like doing their best and doing pretty fucking well a lot of the time. And with all that being said, I do focus more on my mother because I was talking to her until I was like 23 or something. Maybe I would have been old, like 25. My dad died when I was 18. I straight up just didn't have him around for as long. But it is much, much easier for me to, like, not excuse, but forgive, I suppose, my dad for a lot of things. Because I've said a bunch of times in videos, like, he just wasn't there for most of it. He was in his study either working on his small business or playing mahjong. He played mahjong hours a day for fucking years. And I feel like you can tell from how I've said that, that pissed me off. I wanted my dad to spend time with me and do things with me and show interest in me. But I also absolutely know the times that, like, obviously it's not the same, but if I'm playing Minecraft and Otis comes wandering in, sure, you can sit with me, I like that. I'm not stroking you and actively playing with you because I'm playing Minecraft. And obviously, I would like to think that if I had an actual living human child coming in begging me for attention, I would do more than just stick them on my knee and carry on playing. But I get how it feels when it's like, I'm fucking focused on this thing and I know you would like something from me, but I'm focused right now, you know? And I still don't think it was okay, and I think he probably should have done better. But I understand that entirely, like, I completely get that. And similarly, I've talked about how, for the most part, my dad didn't really have that much to do with us as a family. He was in his office, that was that. And every now and again, he would have these like bursts of anger that were absolutely terrifying to me as a child over things that I would have never expected him to get angry about. And again, it's the kind of thing that I know that I've done that myself. I know that, like, I'm having a bad day and someone does something and that is their final fucking straw. And I'm someone who was never allowed to show anger or any sort of negative emotion. So I am going to go into my room and have a big cry and feel really angry and then get over it and not have the same, like, emotional outburst most of the time. There have been a handful of times across my life that I'm really not proud of, where I have had that emotional outburst based on someone and gotten really angry at them, when the reality is that the thing they did, the thing that's happening with them, it might be an issue, but it is not my main current issue, you know? It's that I am overwhelmed and this other thing's happened and I'm thinking about this other thing and it's all too fucking much. And I very much recognise that that was what was happening for my dad. And again, like, it scared the ever-loving shit out of me, like, from being a very young child right up until my teen years, when I started just shouting back and be like, what is your fucking problem? But, like, I see where that came from. I understand exactly what that emotion is. That is I get it entirely. So I might not necessarily, like... See, that's the thing. I feel like I have forgiven him. And largely it's the fact of, like, he's been dead for 10 years. You know, like, what else am I going to do? Like, forever be angry at him? And it's the same type of thing with my mum as well. Like, more things piss me off with her. And more things upset me about the whole situation. Because obviously, like, I hadn't spoken to her in 2 years before she died. Whereas I'd maintained a relationship with my dad and all stuff like that. But, like... it happened, and that was the way my life was for a very long time, and that was what set me up for my start in the world. And really, like, I do think that, like, living like that as a child and being treated like that as a child absolutely fucked me up to get for becoming an adult, you know? Like, so many of my issues and, like, things stem from that. But at the same time, like, it happened and I dealt with it. And I mean, I say I dealt with it, I lived through it, and we are now dealing with it realistically. I can't change that. I can't do anything about it. There's no point holding on to, like, a load of anger and, like, really horrible negative emotions. But I'm also not gonna be all fucking godly and forgiveness and all, like, you know, like, some people don't deserve to be forgiven. And I don't have to, like, hold and maintain a load of anger and sadness to not forgive someone. It doesn't have to be holding a grudge. It can be as simple as, like, that wasn't okay. Like, it wasn't, and I never got an apology, you know? I tried to talk about these things and I was told that they didn't happen, or they happened this other way, or it was actually like this, and I was lied to and gaslit. So I don't feel like there's forgiveness deserved. I don't feel like there was ever forgiveness wanted. Whereas I had several conversations with my dad where he would be like sobbing over my childhood and telling me how sorry he was. And I was asking for answers, so it pissed me off a lot at the time. But again, like, just having more lived experience and not being a teenager anymore, like, in a lot of ways, I do kind of wish that my dad had lived longer, because I think we would have been able to have more, actually, like, conversations with actual fucking results, to be honest with you, because I wouldn't have been a teenager, and I don't know how he would have been. It's all hypothetical and it's not really worth talking about. It's just quite depressing, isn't it? But this whole video has been quite depressing, and I feel like I've said so many words and I'm not 100% sure I've gotten my point across, to be entirely honest with you. I so often, like, I feel and understand my own point so well, and yet actually putting it across, it can be difficult, it can be hard. And like, I really appreciate how many of you have told me in comments that I'm good at it, and I try really hard to, like, be decent at it. Never entirely sure how well I've done. I don't think this is one of my better times, but I do think that, like, the people that this is for and the people that will actually benefit from this type of content, you probably, hopefully you get it, hopefully you can gain something from it. Like similarly with the autism thing, I feel like I've sort of, like, figured things out and realised things about myself and started working on things just before I see loads of people on the internet be like, oh, there's this thing, and it's, I feel like I'm not ahead of other people at all, but I've just, like, I've already gotten started. I can be kind of like, oh, here's some things I've done to get started, let's see how this goes for us all, you know? So I just hope it all comes across properly. I don't have a fucking clue. I'm trying my best, and like, once I've stopped trying to make my point, my brain also goes, like, completely empty for the next half hour until it's time to edit. So I'm gonna go now. It feels so weird to be like, if you enjoy this type of content, if you really like hearing about my trauma and abuse, but, like, if you find this kind of content beneficial, if you enjoy watching me, it would be really nice if you wanted to like and subscribe. It's really cool when people do that. You can also find me over on Instagram, TikTok, or Patreon. No. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, or Blue Sky, and you can also find me over on Ko-fi or Patreon if you wanted to go down the monetary route, but you don't have to, there's no pressure. I hate everyone in the Discord. I need to find, like, a whole new outro so that I don't have to talk about it. I swear to Christ. Okay, I'm going. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.